My name is Daniel, and this is the true story of the woman who changed my life. My mother. A story built with sacrifice, silence, scars, and love. A story I never understood until I grew up and learned what pain really feels like. I grew up in a very small home on the edge of a quiet town. The walls were thin, the roof leaked when it rained, and the evenings smelled like dust and candle smoke. But inside that broken home lived a woman whose heart was stronger than anything in the world. She always woke up before sunrise. I remember the soft sound of her footsteps and the gentle clinking of metal as she packed her tiny bag for work. She never complained. She never talked about how tired she was. She just kept going. When I was 6, I asked her why she woke up so early. She smiled and said, "So you can sleep peacefully." Back then, I did not understand what that meant. Childhood years. As a child, I believed she had the easiest life in the world. She would work all day, come home, make dinner, help me with my homework, wash the dishes, clean the floor, tuck me into bed, and kiss my forehead before turning off the light. Sometimes I would pretend to be asleep, just so I could hear her prayers. They were always the same. God, give him a life better than mine. Every night. Every single night. But the world was not kind to my mother. One winter, she fell sick. She came home with trembling hands and eyes filled with exhaustion. But instead of resting, she cooked dinner like she always did. Later, when she thought I could not hear her, she cried quietly in the kitchen. I remember the sound of her tears hitting the floor. That was the first time I realized she was human. The first heartbreak. When I was 12, life changed. My father left. There were no long arguments.
No dramatic endings. No goodbyes.
He packed a suitcase and walked out the door. I asked my mother where he went. She looked into my eyes and said, "He forgot how lucky
He was.
She did not hate him. She did not blame him.
She just kept going.
But the nights changed. I could hear silence in every corner of the house. She began working double shifts. She barely slept. She barely ate. She hid her tiredness behind a smile, so I would not worry. One evening, I saw her sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at a small envelope. When she noticed me watching, she hid it under her hand. But I had already seen it.
It was a bill she could not pay.
The world outside. School was hard. Kids laughed at my torn shoes. They whispered about my father. Some teachers pitied me. But nothing hurt more than watching my mother blame herself for things she never caused. One day I asked her, "Why don't we have what other families have?" She looked at me with the softest sadness in her eyes and said, "We have each other. And that is enough." Years passed. She worked. She struggled. She never quit. Soon I was old enough to work too. I wanted to help, but she refused to let me. "Your job is to dream," she said. "My job is to make sure you can." The turning point. When I turned 18, something inside me changed. I no longer wanted to watch her suffer. I wanted to give her a life she deserved. I applied to college. I worked long hours. I studied at night. I barely slept. Sometimes she would enter my room quietly and place a blanket over me. I would pretend not to wake up. But every time she touched my shoulder, I felt the entire world tighten around my heart. I knew she was proud. I also knew she was scared. Scared I would fail. Scared I would give up. Scared life would crush me like it crushed her. The struggle continues. College was expensive. I worked in restaurants, on construction sites, at gas stations. I sold books. I washed cars. I delivered newspapers at dawn. And still, we barely survived. One night, as I sat on the floor studying, she walked in holding a small jar filled with money. "I've been saving this," she said softly, "for your future." When she placed it in my hands, it felt like the weight of the entire world. I opened the jar. Inside were wrinkled bills, coins, and a note written years ago. It said, "For Daniel's dream." I cried that night.
Silently.
For the woman who had given everything. The breakthrough. Years later, I graduated. My mother sat in the front row. Her clothes were old. Her shoes were worn. but her smile was brighter than the sun. When I walked across the stage to receive my degree, I looked into the crowd and saw her crying. She covered her mouth with her hands, like she was trying to hold in her pride. After the ceremony, she hugged me and whispered, "You did it." But the truth was, we did it. The new life.
My first job changed everything. The long nights, the pain, the hunger, the fear. It all led to that moment. Soon I earned enough to move us into a better home. It was small but clean, quiet, safe. My mother walked through every room with tears in her eyes. She touched the walls as if they were made of gold. She looked at me and said, "I never asked God for this much." The moment I will never forget. One evening, as we sat together drinking tea, she took my hand and said, "I do not need anything else from life." I asked her why. She smiled and replied, "Because my son is happy." There were many successful years after that. But time is a thief. It steals quietly. My mother grew older. Her knees weakened. Her breathing softened. Her hair turned silver. One night, she fell asleep in her chair. I placed a blanket over her, Just like she did for me.
a lifetime ago. The last conversation. When she became ill, the doctor said she did not have much time left. I refused to believe it. I begged life to give me more days, more hours, more minutes. On her final morning, she asked me to sit beside her. Her voice was weak, but warm. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "You gave me the life I dreamed of." I cried, holding her face in my hands. I told her she gave me everything. Strength,
Courage, hope, love.
She smiled one final time. Her eyes closed. And just like that, she was gone. Today, every success I have belongs to her. Every breath, every victory, every achievement. When people say they are self-made, I smile, because I know the truth. We are shaped by the hands that held us when we were too small to stand. We are carried by the hearts that loved us before we knew what love meant. And for me, that heart was my mother, the strongest woman I have ever known. And I will spend the rest of my life honoring her name. A mother is not just a person. She is a world. If your mother is alive, hug her today. Talk to her. Listen to her. Thank her. If she is gone, remember her with pride, not pain, because love like hers never dies. If you like the video, subscribe the channel and hit the like button.